oh my God, I can't handle this. Find me a safe space. Hello and welcome to Unrelenting episode number 40 for September 2nd, 2022. If they let you back into the country, Gene, I don't believe it. There was questions in the troll room before the show as to how many illegals you brought back in your luggage. I thought that was kind of a racist question, but I figured I'd ask anyway.
Yeah, really. I mean, does anyone really need to bring any illegals back in, given how open the border is right now?
I was going to say, is it kind of funny that they're checking your, information to come back while they just wave everybody with no documents in?
It is literally that, where if you have a U.S. passport, you have to go and get your retina scanned. And if you don't, then you just go on through and there's nobody at the post. You just walk right through the gate. So, yeah, it's a little wacky. The border seems to be inverted right now.
Why is everybody so racist? And I think this is hilarious. Lori Lightfoot, a lot of people like to call her Larry. She does look like one of those troll things.
She looks like that critter from that horror movie back like 30 years ago.
She looks like a few critters from a few different horror movies. Mm-hmm. Like if they all got together and had a baby.
Like she's got a shrunken head and, she like totally New Orleans kind of.
Oh, yeah. Very voodoo.
A cold shrunken head looking thing.
Yeah.
I don't understand. What kind of idiots would elect somebody like that?
The people of Chicago.
I mean, that's beyond deranged. When you just visually look at somebody, you don't have to know anything about their politics. You're like, nope.
She looks insane. Yeah, but she is insane.
Yeah, exactly. So there you go. The look matches reality.
The governor of Texas, Abbott, has been sending out busloads of migrants. Now, this is a very interesting thing because it's not like it's forced. And that's the one thing that anybody on the left avoids mentioning, which is this is a program, as far as I can tell anyway. I'm not down there. I haven't seen this firsthand, but it appears to be a program where they go to where these people who've just came into the country illegally are and go, hey, you want a free bus ride to New York, Chicago, wherever?
All the cool cities.
Right. And if they say yes, they put them on the bus for free.
Yep.
Now, Lori Lightfoot says this is a racist policy. And I'm only thinking it has to be racist to send somebody to Chicago.
She does have a point because they do check IDs. And if you have an ID, then you can't get a free ticket.
Right, then you can't get on the bus.
Yeah.
You have to.
So you have to not have an ID to get on the bus.
I just thought it was funny because
it's a great program. People, look, if the rest of the country doesn't want to keep them from crossing into Texas, then the least Texas ought to do is ask them where they'd really like to go.
Yes, we can relocate. It's okay. That way the Texas communities on the border there do not have to face the brunt of everything coming in. Help equal out the load.
Now, ironically, nobody wants to go to California, but
well, yeah.
DC, New York, Chicago, those are all big destinations. Some people want to go to Florida, but not California.
I just think it's funny that the mayor of Chicago, the mayor of Washington, D.C., the mayor of New York, who are, I believe, all black, say it's racist to send people to their cities.
And incidentally, how's it racist for these black people to say that sending Mexicans to their cities is somehow racist?
What? I don't know. I can't figure it out.
That sounds like a racist statement.
Yes, it does. That this is a racist policy. And it's like, are the buses air conditioned? It's like, yeah, they look like nice, new, Greyhound kind of buses. It's like, well, I'd rather be in an air conditioned bus than it's like 106 degrees in Texas right now.
Yeah, exactly. And then believe me, people don't want to stick around Texas. This is where all the relatives live. They want to get somewhere further away.
As people often do, get away from the relatives.
Exactly.
But how was your vacation south of the border?
Oh, it was good. I never left a hotel, which is perfect.
Which is the only way you don't get kidnapped down in Mexico.
Oh, that's some bullshit. Mexico's totally safe. In fact, I'm going to go back next month.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
just to maybe backpack through Mexico, walk around, see what you can find?
Yeah, I figured I'd just take my own car down there and just drive around anywhere I want.
Perfect. I mean, definitely keep a live video stream open so we can hear your final words.
I am gonna check on the border, see if anybody wants to ride back to Mexico. My guess is probably nobody.
Oh, I mean, while you're going the other way, while you're crossing into Mexico.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, free ride across the border into Mexico. Anybody interested? No. Okay.
No, there was rumors on No Agenda Social. I mean, you are a man of mystery because people seem to think you have like multiple different passports from multiple different countries. So I
have no idea why people would think that.
I don't know. It seems like they're digging.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know. It doesn't seem right.
I think it's just Polish rumor.
It could be. I mean, the last I heard was you had an Israeli passport, and it's like I didn't know how that quite worked out. I mean, you could be an assassin, or is that too close? Do we need to cut this part out of the show?
Oh, come on, dude. Like an assassin would be doing something public, like talking on a podcast or...
Wouldn't that be the perfect cover?
Or like acting or something. That's crazy.
I mean, Julia Childs was a spy for the CIA, right?
Well, that's true, yeah.
And she was like right out in the open. This is hiding in plain sight.
That was well documented.
Yeah. But you got relaxed in Mexico?
Yeah, probably more than I should have.
What does that mean?
Well, my goal was to work on my next book. And I did that for like 3 days.
And then just became kind of uninterested?
Well, I didn't do them 3 days in a row either. But no, it was just kind of like I was just relaxing, enjoying not doing anything. I only got online like once a day.
Well, you had to watch Tim Pool, right? So, I mean, you had to get that in.
Well, funny enough, Tim Pool's on the local TV stations down there. So that's
really,
I didn't even have to worry about that. Yeah.
Wait, they run Tim Pool videos?
Yeah. I guess it's cheaper to run YouTube videos than to pay for actual programming.
Oh, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That is interesting. I don't know what the legalities are.
What's Mexico? Kind of what do you mean legalities?
Well, right.
What are you talking about?
There's that. There is that too. But that's kind of funny. Like, this show, I mean, hell, then this
I got all the cat videos that I could watch on TV, which was great.
Did you accidentally turn on the AM radio in Mexico and hear us talking?
Yeah, right. I know. That would be pretty damn funny, wouldn't it?
Like, now we know who's listening.
Exactly.
Hey, there's a lot of content out there.
I wonder if we could get on the AM radio in Mexico. Probably could.
Well, you know what? I think we could get on here in Chicago. Really, as long as we kept out the swearing, I'm pretty sure I could twist he's a No Agenda guy, the guy that runs that station.
Oh yeah. I remember.
And he's running No Agenda. I think he's doing the editing himself now because it just got to be too hard for me to do it. And we need a team of people that would, get together and turn No Agenda into a radio friendly show because it's more work than most, I think.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, part of it too is I think that there are occasionally copyrighted things played.
Correct.
And you got to not just check for swearing, but check for that as well.
And then because the station has to be aware they'll need the proper licenses, and it's a lot, which is why sports radio is a lot cheaper than being a music station because again, there's that part of it.
Although I don't think it's super expensive being a music station.
Not for an actual terrestrial radio.
Yeah, I mean, you basically are an advertising transmission station with some gaps filled in with music.
Which is true.
If it comes down to it. And I was doing a long drive yesterday. So I was listening to some public radio.
Oh, NPR, really?
Yeah, that's usually what I listen to. And if I listen to any terrestrial shit, usually it's podcasts. But if I listen to anything terrestrial, then it's going to be NPR.
You want to get your government programming in.
The thing about NPR is it's probably the most
podcast-like of all radio.
Yeah, exactly. It's the most podcast-like. Well, that's a good way to put it, actually. I hadn't thought about it that way. But it kind of is. I always live the sound that they have, and Adam's talked about it, how they have some of the best studios and the best equipment guy and the best producers in the world. because they have more money than every other radio station.
Yes.
Being National Public Radio and asking they were on the whole value for value bandwagon.
Yeah, Adam Curry stole that from them
years
obviously.
ago.
Yeah.
Oh, he did. He fully admits it. That's been around public radio for like 50 years plus.
Please, we rely on listeners like you.
Yeah, listeners like you and advertisers. But mostly,
right.
we just...
It's no advertisers. They're just a corporate sponsor.
They're sponsors, yes. But today's show sponsored by Dr. Fauci.
Yes, but we do not
take reminds
ads.
You.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh. AIDS is bad. Don't forget, Dr. Fauci says AIDS is bad.
Good old Dr. Fauci.
Dr. Fauci is quite the character.
He gains a little
trying
weight,
not to get sued.
Yeah, well, he's going to be dead before the lawsuits would get in.
I don't know that he necessarily will ever die.
Really, you think he may be one of these lizard people?
I think he may be one of those people that made a deal with the devil a long time ago.
Or I just thought maybe he actually knew what he was doing with the drugs. He just
now, do we know that Mengele actually died?
No, you don't. I don't have any proof.
I've never seen the two of them next to each other.
Could be. Does Fauci speak in the German? Does he speak in the Deutsch?
He speaks with a fake New York accent.
Let me tell you. Yeah. You got to get your shots.
That's a Wolfman Jack doing a shot
maybe
promo ad for some reason.
The wolf.
Hey, kids and kiddies, get out there and get on the ball. You're going to have a lot of fun with the Wolfman.
That's the one. There we go. Can't do an episode without having Wolfman in it.
It's a little bit of a, see, originally I thought the Wolfman was like this really low beefy. And then I went back and listened. It's like, oh no,
he's not. Yeah.
It's that higher, it's raspy, but it's a higher voice.
You're thinking of The Undertaker.
Could be.
Yeah.
Or the son of Sven Gulli.
Was he pretty low?
Not really. He's the guy that does all the horror stuff on television here way back.
Hey, kids.
Yes, pretty much. Pretty much. That's the bit. But he made it into a career like Elvira. I mean, made that into one hell of a career. Just that.
Oh, apparently we have a hurricane. Danielle. Hurricane
finally?
Danielle. Yeah.
Oh my God. This is amazing.
Yeah, finally. See, this proves it. There is climate.
This is climate change, right? Because we were told like, what was that, 10 years when the original
it'll be nonstop hurricanes all year long,
which is what the original Al Gore, the Inconvenient Truth. There's going to be so many tropical storms and hurricanes, and then
there's going to be nonstop tropics.
This year it's September 2nd. It's the first one.
Yep, barely.
And is it a big Danielle? Is she a big girl, small girl? What's it going to be?
Well, I mean, just crossed over into a hurricane off of a tropical storm, so it just barely crossed over.
Wow. This is
we'll see where it goes.
Do we need to go hide in our basements yet, or is it okay?
I mean, that's usually where it gets flooded, so I'm not sure why you'd want to do that. This is not a hurricane.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a hurricane. It's not a tornado is what I meant to say.
Right. If it's a tornado, then you'd want to be there.
Yeah, you want to be in the basement. Yeah.
Now, if it's a hurricane,
I mean, hurricanes have straight line winds. Tornadoes have suck power. I had a dream about a month ago where I was literally looking out my window and watching a tornado form like 100 feet away from the house.
Did you feel like this was a premonition, or
I'm realizing this is not a good thing, because once that sucker starts spinning up, I've been in that situation once before. It was a little more than 100 feet. It's probably about probably a quarter mile away. Tornado started forming, and I was literally shooting photos of the. This is in the pre-video days. Shooting photos of the clouds to start swirling, and then.
Were you looking for the storm? Were you chasing the storm?
No, it was just the cool looking clouds. I was taking pictures of cool looking clouds outside.
Was this in Texas, or was this still back in the Midwest?
Minnesota.
Okay.
Minnesota,
yeah. You do get some bad weather in the Midwest.
You do. And I mean, I've been in two places where the tornado's gone and ripped through town. Not super close to me, but within like 5 miles. And, massive damage, houses just blown away.
And 5 miles is pretty damn close when houses are just gone.
Oh, they're gone. You do kind of, people in other countries make fun of the way the American houses are built, which are basically matchstick houses. We build our houses with wooden frames and then put paper on them. and then put a little super thin layer of fake brick on the outside to make them look nice. Whereas in other countries, they actually are typically built out of concrete. So we see exactly how strong the houses are when we have things like hurricanes and tornadoes come through.
Now you could just rebuild them.
Exactly. That makes it easy. Now in Florida, I think they have requirements for homes where you can't build it unless it's a hurricane-proof house or something. Now there's plenty of old houses that are not hurricane-proof, but I think if you rebuild, it has to be hurricane-proof, which means it has to stand up to 100-mile-an-hour solid line winds, straight line winds.
Yeah, we had during the other show that I do on Mondays, Planet Rage.
Oh, you do another show?
Yeah. 80-mile-an-hour winds during the show. I didn't realize it was quite that bad at the time. It got really dark. And of course, I'm like halfway below ground anyway.
Right. You live underground, I hear.
Well, right. You have to be at least 4 or 5 stories underground at all times.
Mm-hmm.
But it got like really dark, which is normal if it's going to rain. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, my spare Apple phone, which really never makes noise at all or does, because there's really nothing on this thing, starts beeping. And I like looked at the thing and it's like, dangerous wind warning.
Yeah.
I'm like, holy crap. And there was a town not too far from here that they had recorded the 80-mile-an-hour wind. So I'm just kind of guessing that's about what we had here.
I think the strongest wind I've been in is 50.
It was, I mean, you could hear, it was just a weird kind of a vibe because the house kind of just like vibrates or something. I don't know. It's like, are the windows going to come flying in?
Oh, yeah.
But no, it seems like everything weathered that. But you don't know when this kind of stuff is going to pop up.
No. And you don't know if you're literally 1 mile speed faster and the whole thing would come down.
Yeah. Yeah. When the house just kind of starts vibrating. That's why I also have a little, from back in the days when we used to go to the NASCAR races, a little scanner that has the weather bands on there. Because if the power goes out and the internet goes out, you can at least still, and it's just something fun to listen to. And they're like, ooh, a tornado was spotted.
Yeah, I have the weather bands on my watch.
Well, see, you're way more advanced.
It's the same idea.
Yeah, you just want to be able to get that information when you need it.
Yeah.
Because everybody's like, well, I could just go to the internet. And it's like, what about when the internet's not there?
Mm-hmm.
That happened too about a week or so ago. Our internet went down. It was that was the day it was the day of Unrelenting, or no, not Unrelenting. It was 2 weeks ago with Planet Rage.
And yeah, maybe somebody's trying to tell you something.
I think maybe that the internet went out for like 2 hours, and it was like, well, now what do I do?
What would you do if you can't record a podcast, man?
I know you'd have to record.
That's your main activity is recording podcasts.
I can record a solo show without the internet, so that's fine.
Oof. Yeah, I guess. I listened to your last solo one. What was it called?
Random Thoughts.
Grampy Rumpies.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, Grumpy Old Ben's or Random Thoughts or
no, I think it was called Grampy Rumpies. But
for the solo show?
It was talking about baseball cards of all things.
Oh, yeah, the Mickey Mantle card.
Yeah. And as soon as I heard the topic, I'm like, crap. All right, this is totally not interesting to me. I'm going to turn it off.
Which is what Larry always says, because he does not follow any of that. But he's like, you do it in such a way that it was intriguing.
Well, this is the crazy thing is I actually listened to the whole goddamn episode. I was too lazy to turn it off.
That's how I get you.
Yeah, apparently you just sucked me right in there. But the thing that's interesting to me is the story about the guy that he used to be a driver and courted all these cards.
Yeah, that he used to deliver for Topps back in the day.
What kind of idiot kid would sell that stuff? Why wouldn't you keep that?
I don't know. Then that is the one part of this story that you go back to. And at the time that they thought they were bringing in a lot of money, and it was a lot of money at that time. But you realize
that much money.
They brought in $125,000 in 1980 or 81, whenever that was. I mean, it was good money, but it was not your set for the rest of your life.
So the average income in 81, I think, was 31,000.
So it was
maybe 29,000. So it was about 3 years worth of salary. So it wasn't bad money, but so here's what I would have done in that situation, right? Assume I don't give a shit about cards or the game, right? I would have gone through and found every duplicate card, and then I would have kept one of those and not sell them. And then I would have done a what do you call it? Where they price this stuff out.
Well, that was it back in 1981.
Yeah.
The system that we have today with multiple companies that grade these things.
Yeah.
It didn't exist. So you couldn't send them off anywhere. You could just be like, well, it looks good. And
fair enough, but you could lay them. Like I've literally done this, lay all the cards on the floor or the bed or whatever, take a photo, send the photo in and say, are any of these worth anything?
Yes. Well, they knew they were worth big bucks, but big bucks back then was completely different. And it's the insanity of the grading, which is both great and horrible at the same time, that a card like that, the one that sold is the best version out of all of them that are known from a 1952 printing. So, I mean, there's a chance that maybe something will be graded just as well. Probably not, but you never know what people are going to find. And
it's fair enough. And plenty of those got thrown away. I'm pretty sure all of my baseball cards got thrown away.
My dad always tells that story of how his mom threw them away, and he had some 52 mantles, but I mean, not every 52 mantle's worth millions, although from looking up, as I mentioned in that show.
$100,000 though.
Yeah, well, the worst versions, you look them up and it's the PSA's the big grading company. If you look up one that was rated a 1, and this is a 1 out of 10 scale, so this is the lowest grade they'll give.
It was inside of a bicycle.
It was still right. Still would sell for like $20,000. So, you put that into perspective. It's like, that's crazy. But, I've looked up some Jordan cards, and there's one that the Boy Scouts gave away. It was an extra large card that a 10 has sold anywhere over the last year or so from 100,000 to 250,000. But one that's graded an 8, which is what they would be, it's like 6,000, which is still good money, but it's a huge drop down.
Yeah.
But back then, I mean, the guy that went to buy all these cards talked about bringing a cop with them. I'm guessing brought like 125,000 in cash or something. I don't know exactly how that deal went down.
Yeah.
But that was it's like that seemed like so much money, but then you go one of those.
That's a lot of money. But again, it's like, why would you not keep one of everything if you have all these duplicates in there? That's the part to me that seems completely irrational.
Well, I've thought about this, because the question is, where is the top when it comes to having these collectibles? Then where do you decide to sell? If you realize today, oh, wow, I've got this whatever card. I got this Mickey Mantle card and it just sold for 12 million. Well, that's a bad example because anybody would want 12 million.
Yeah.
But if you can look back and see that, okay, this card is worth $10,000 today.
But it doesn't matter what you're selling. It's the same thing with, art. Right. Paintings.
But does it always go up, or is there an eventual downward trend?
It's the same thing with cars.
Right.
I think, there's a number of factors here playing, because really, when you're buying something that is no longer made, what you're paying for isn't the quality of the item.
The rarity
what you're paying for is the uniqueness and the rarity of the item. This is why people are always really blown away by the fact that I have wines or cigars or spirits that are really fucking expensive. And the way that I've done this
is buy them when they're cheap and wait.
That's exactly right. So what I do is just not fucking drink and smoke this stuff. So I have what are considered to be I don't have many anymore, unfortunately, but some considered to be one of the best cigars ever made in the history of cigars. I have 1987 Dunhills. These cigars, when they came out, were already considered a great vintage, but as time went on, and you literally can't get them, right? So 1987 happened to be the absolutely worst year for the volume of cigar manufacturing, which also meant it was the best year for cigar manufacturing, or I should say for cigar smokers.
Right.
Because there was nothing crappy that went into production because the production numbers were so damn low. Whereas you go forward in time to the mid 90s, when the cigar boom was really crazy and everybody and their cousins started smoking cigars, and the production was using tobacco that would have been absolutely thrown away in the past. That was just substandard, just really shitty quality. So, when you buy the 87 cigars within a couple of years of them being released, and then you keep them for 30 years, that's how you end up with $100 cigars.
Yeah, it doesn't happen overnight.
Same thing. Yeah, same thing with different wines and then different spirits. Like, I personally think there is something cool about consuming the last of whatever it is.
You want to be the guy like, are there any more of these? No, I'll drink it then.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I enjoy being the last person to do something. That it's a pleasurable feeling. And the price of this stuff is directly tied to the availability. So when it comes to baseball cards, what happens? Well, most of them get thrown away by mothers.
Well, especially the ones that were made in the 1950s, because there was not any money to them. As I talked about in that episode, when 1960 rolls around, Topps disposes garbage truck fulls of these cards, and it just would make you think.
I don't know if it makes a whole lot of difference now, because I'm sure there are cards that are coming out right now that 50 years from now we'll be like, oh my God, why didn't everybody else just collect these? These are super valuable now.
Well, there's less.
Nobody knows.
See, there's less because of the way Topps runs now, which they still have their regular sets, but there is a run of cards that Topps has been doing for the last few years that I've never really understood the mentality of people collecting them. I mean, I get if it's your favorite player and you want the card, that's great. But as far as going up in value, the way they do this series is, if something happens in the game today, like if somebody were to pitch a perfect game today, there's going to be a Topps card now tomorrow that they're going to take orders on for like 2 or 3 days, and then that's it. They print it once and it's done.
Yeah.
But anybody that wants the card can buy it.
Yeah.
Which means there's no rarity to it. There's no.
Well, there is a rarity. It's just not going to be apparent for a while because these things will disappear. It's the same thing with cars. I'm blown away by how many people, both in movies, TV shows, and in just driving around, how many millennials and Zoomers think that having a 1970s or 1980s car is cool. These are the worst pieces of shit ever manufactured on the planet.
3 miles to the gallon.
It's not even that. It's not even the shitty mileage. It's the fact that there were no standards of manufacturing in the United States in the 70s. The country was going through a depression. Inflation was starting to go up. There was no pride nor requirements for quality control. And the manufacturing in the U.S. and especially in U.S. cars was atrocious. They're pieces of shit. They're poorly designed and even more poorly manufactured. Watch, I'll get hate mail from some Zoomer telling me how wrong I am. It's like, live through this shit, motherfucker. I don't need to listen to anybody telling me otherwise. They're horrible cars. And yet, this is what now is becoming like the cool cars. I was like, you got to be shitting me. 1960s cars are way cooler than 70s and 80s cars combined. You know, there's a lot of good things about the 80s, right? Music, the cocaine.
Oh, come on. You know you want the Sonny Crockett, or was that a Ferrari that they had?
Yeah. But the number of good quality cars in the 80s, including that Ferrari, you know, those Ferraris need to get serviced every 3,000 miles.
Yeah, like a good woman.
Good woman needs to get serviced every 3,000 miles.
That's what I've heard. I don't know.
I hear they just need to get traded in. That's all.
Oh, well, that is your bit. That's true.
Uh-huh. So, yeah, the cars were just shitty, man. I would not want any of those cars. Now, were there interesting, unique, and cool cars? Well, certainly. The Ferrari 308, that was a cool car. I definitely have a soft spot for it. Still not a great car, but it also wasn't a U.S. car. Sure. You know, the manufacturing I'm talking about is U.S. manufacturing was shitty.
You don't want an Oldsmobile Delta 88 from the 80s.
I had an Oldsmobile Delta 88. Literally drove one of those.
First one?
Yes.
Yeah, I had the first one was a 78 and the second one was an 85, I think.
I had a 78 and then a 79.
Those things were fun to drive, man.
They were, I don't know if I would not call them fun. They were more like you're driving a boat than a car.
Yes. They were the car that nobody was going to try to cut in front of you merging.
Uh-huh.
For good reason.
But they also had way less power than they should have for their weight.
That's true. They did not fly.
Most cars, and this is somebody else I was trying to explain this to that wasn't around back then. It's like the average not even the average, let's say the top horsepowers in the 80s, the most powerful car engines that we had were around 200 horsepower.
Well, that's why the
minivans have more than that today.
Was it the 80? Was either the 85 or 86, the Buick Grand National, the special they came out with.
Yes.
Still worth hundreds of thousands.
Which is insane because I remember sitting in that thing and it was super uncomfortable and the visibility was meh. And the only thing that it had was a more powerful engine than other cars, but it was a piece of shit in every other way. So I really don't understand the appeal of that. Now, though, like I said, there's a few exceptions. So I did like the LT1 Corvette? That was 88, I think.
I think so, yeah.
87, 88, right around there time frame. I remember looking at that at the car show and going, oh, yeah, this thing is very cool.
You didn't buy one in each color back then?
I did not buy one in each color back then. The other car that I really liked was the 300ZX. The Nissan. You remember those?
Yes. Yeah.
So they kind of became a meh car. But back in the day, back in the mid 80s, Nissan was way ahead of every other company when it came to electronics. These cars had full digital displays in the cockpit. They had they may not have been the first, but one of the earliest cars that had voice instead of chime commands. So whether you left your door open or whether, the fuel level, I remember this, the car would say in a very sexy female voice, fuel level is low.
You were like, you kept running it down. Yeah.
I'm not going to fuel it up at all now. I'm just going to listen to this.
Your trunk is open.
Left door is open. It would talk to you. They had 12 speakers in them, which is an ungodly amount because American cars had 2.
Or if you're lucky. Yeah, I remember
or
a lot
if you're
of cars,
lucky,
no back speakers, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Just 2. One left door, right door. There was just a slew of high-tech functionality that these things had. And it had a super powerful 200 horsepower engine. And I always thought, well, why is it called the 300 if it's got 200 horsepower? Shouldn't it be the 200 ZX? But they eventually had a 200 SX. But the 300 ZX eventually ended up in the 90s with a 300 horsepower engine, but it really lost a lot of its unique factor. It's just not. I don't even think it's made anymore. I would be shocked if it was made anymore. Most companies stopped making 2-door sporty cars.
Well, now you're not going to even be able to get a car with an engine that's not electric. I think it's a travesty that Dodge is
in California, you can't charge electric engines, which is perfect.
Yeah. No more Charger after next year. No more Challenger. Because, we're Dodge and we're going to go all electric. It's like, screw you, man. That's not going to work.
No, it'll work.
It'll work. Sure, it will.
Electric works great, dude. I like electric cars.
Oh, I think electric cars can work great, but the whole charging and driving them across country, there's a lot of
nobody drives across country. Here's the dirty little secret: if you want to go across country, you go to Texas, you get on the bus.
They'll put you on a bus. No, my buddy Larry just drove cross country again. 7,033 miles from L.A. to the East Coast.
Is he a truck driver?
No.
Your buddy Larry?
No.
Okay.
Larry from that Larry show.
Yeah. I can't hear him that. He's too low.
He's got that. We have to give him a pitch shifter on his voice.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
But how do you know when it comes to the collectibles, how do you know when the high end is reached? Because
it's never reached. That's the bottom line.
It could go down.
No, it's not. Well, it could go down temporarily, but generally it's going to go up simply because the rarity will keep going down. And ultimately, this is true of Bitcoin as well, because Bitcoin is collectible. I don't know if you knew that.
I did not.
I
didn't even know it was real. I know
it's not really real, but it is a collectible.
Okay.
And so
it's a virtual
as more people lose and or give away and or get confiscated Bitcoin, the price will go up. So right now the price is shit. And of course, if the world, ends up going nuke, which there's a pretty good chance that it will,
then all your Bitcoins are screwed.
Bitcoin's not going to matter. That'll be the least of your concerns is how much Bitcoin you have.
Because you can't eat Bitcoin.
On the off chance that it doesn't go nuclear.
Okay, George Bush.
All right. Hey, he's somewhere around here. He's mostly painting these days, I hear.
I don't blame him. Although I did see the Texas Rangers, the one team out of the 30 Major League Baseball teams that has not had an LGBTQ night at the ballpark ever.
Why would they have an LGBT night?
Because all the other 29 have had LGBTQ.
Speaking of LGBT and numbers things, did you hear about the story out of London where the lesbians were kicked out of the gay pride parade?
Well, yeah, because they're not gay enough or something.
And because they're anti-trans. Because they think there's such a thing called woman.
Well, the trans stuff is another big part of. There was just a big article on justthenews.com about MLB. That's where I saw that the Rangers were the only ones that haven't had a pride night. But they talked about, as a part of this, the organizations that are, sponsors or that get, funds, or the ones that the baseball teams are donating to because they want to be woke, support, how many of them anyway, support early child transitioning.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't think most Major League Baseball teams have any clue who they're giving money to when it comes to charities, but this is a really bad look.
I just don't really have a problem with, woke people not reproducing.
Well, that's true. I do have a problem with ruining a child's life when they're 12 years old or whatever. It's like,
yeah,
but the thing is, that
may have already happened.
Well, probably, yeah. But we have ages for other things. I mean, you can't drink in this country until you're 21, but you can mutilate your body and at 14 because you say, oh, I think I want to be a boy, or I think I want to be a girl. But you can't drink until you're 21. So it's like, let's start looking at the laws and ask why. You can't buy cigarettes. You can't drive a car until you're 16, or at least have a license.
Yeah.
So why do we
I think the solution to this, and I've talked about this, is very simple. And that is get rid of any kind of restrictions on suicide.
Get rid of restrictions on anything.
Well, no, on suicide specifically. Stop trying to keep people that don't want to be alive. Because what that allows people to do is to take themselves out, and then you don't have to worry about what happens in the future with those people.
Well, nobody talks about how much the suicide rates go up after somebody goes through the trans surgeries.
Well, I mean, you hear about it all the time, but yeah.
Well, we do, because we follow this kind of insanity. Yeah. The average person that is like flipping down on TikTok and no, they're clueless.
For everyone that ends up looking like and being
just being happy,
personality wise, the way that Blair White is, there's like 1,000 that don't.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. And you have to be sure you want to do something like that, which is why letting children make that decision. It's funny. It's like you won't let your kid decide what they're having for dinner, but if they want to chop off their dick, then go for it.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, the idea of, I think a lot of the child kind of basis for not wanting to, quote unquote, stay the assigned sex has more to do with just puberty in general. It's sort of like, as a kid, you don't think about sex, and all of a sudden puberty hits, and
then all you can think about is sex.
And it's like, hey, I want the opposite. I want to go back to the way I used to be. And maybe it's hard to say. We've always had a group of people in most civilizations going back to pre-Egyptian that have been like, they never got to really find themselves sexually. These people became nuns or priests or castrati or, a whole slew of people that just, they couldn't deal with sex and therefore they had none. So I think that this is not a new problem. The solution is new, and the age at which we're now talking about doing this is, I think, new.
Yes, because I think for most, there are some people that are so set in their ways, maybe so much on a religious path that they don't want that considered for anybody. But I think most rational thinking people that are like, yeah, you got to do you, but let's make sure that we don't let kids make decisions impacting the rest of their lives before they understand the repercussions. Because I don't even know if 20-year-olds understand the repercussions at this point.
No. But the thing is, there's a big difference between doing things that have a permanent effect and things that have a temporary effect.
Yeah, go all for the temporary. You want to go play games, that's fine.
And look, you want to go have sex with somebody of the same sex? That's not permanent. Right. That's not permanent, right?
You want to wear a dress as a boy? That's great. Not permanent.
Well, I wouldn't recommend it, but
you might get your ass kicked.
You might get your ass kicked, and you should get your ass kicked, frankly. But
then if you're really committed to it.
Well, exactly. But
because society sucks.
Here's the thing: is how is it that all these kids know exactly what a man and a woman are, but none of the adults know what a woman is?
Exactly. Well, and it's amazing.
You can't say, I want to become my true self, which is a woman, unless you know what a woman is, and you're not a woman.
And you're able to define one.
Hold on. So the people that want to switch their I'm going to call it gender, which is ridiculous because gender is so misused. This word has a meaning, and the meaning is gender is something that defines words, not biology.
So you look really still sex then, really what you're looking for.
Yeah. And that's, the traditional term for the disease, for the dysmorphia was people were experiencing a transsexuality, not transgenderism. Transgenderism means you want other people to call you a different sex. Transsexuality means you want to be a different sex, or you are a different sex.
And there is a difference.
There is a difference, but the people that want to be called a different sex, they seem to feel like they have more rights than the people that actually want to be a different sex.
Yeah, because they're wackos. Really,
Darren at unrelenting that
I just have never understood any of the stuff with like somebody meeting you going up and down the street. Now, between your friends, people that know you, you could be like, hey, I want you to call me this. That's fine. But if you walk into the DMV and the guy's like, hey, ma'am, you're next. No, I'm a man. No, that doesn't work.
I know that's nuts.
It doesn't
it's
work.
Insane. And
Unless
why the hell?
Everybody has to wear a button or something, I guess.
Yeah, well, Adam talked about that. Did you listen to the episode where they talked about the buttons for your pronouns on the podcast?
Well, it's the only way to do it, because otherwise, how do you know what to call somebody?
I have to admit, I was laughing my ass off when he was describing it.
What was your button going to be?
Well, I don't think they have my button. I mean, my pronoun is Lord and Master.
Oh, well, you can make that.
Well, sure, you could make it. I'm just saying, I don't think most places have them as default. But the thing that's so funny about it is how the episode before going, Adam was very, gung ho. Yeah, going to be talking about podcasting 2.0 and all the new cool stuff. And he's getting excited. He's excited about going to Podcast Expo.
Yeah, Podcast Movement, which turned to be a train wreck.
Yeah, exactly. And then he's there, and it's like, oh, it's horrible. The food's horrible. The people are even worse than the food. Right. And it's super politically correct. And then they apologize for Ben Shapiro walking through a hotel lobby.
Oh my God, that was the funniest thing. Sky News had video. God. I'm sure this was elsewhere, but Sky News had the video of Ben Shapiro with a bunch of people coming up to him, shaking hands, taking pictures. And it's like the Podcast Movement people, the statement that they put out, like, oh my God, we're sorry for any harm that might have been caused.
Yeah, there's clearly harm caused by having this person be allowed to be on the floor of a building that we're renting.
So if Ben Shapiro gets killed, are not the people at the Podcast Movement partially responsible for his death?
Fully responsible, as far as I'm concerned.
Generating hate?
Yeah.
Generating that he doesn't even
there's
deserve
no
to
hate
exist?
Quite like the hate coming from liberals. I mean, this is like pure hate.
It is.
Because it's a religion. And that's what I have to keep going back to, is it's a religion posing as a political movement.
Which is why they're against people having an actual religion.
Well, I mean, they may or may not be. There's plenty of them that still identify as Christian, believe me.
Well,
but
they're
really part of this religion, and
the Green New Deal is a religion.
We're really living in a theocracy right now.
No, there's no question.
The Biden administration,
and let's be clear,
talking about the MAGA Republicans as the greatest threat America's ever seen.
Yes, and you're absolutely right, saying the Biden administration, not Joe Biden, because that guy's brain is mush.
No, it's whoever's running him. But he's just a prompt reader. He is no different than a TV news host.
He's worse.
He's reading a prompter. That's all he does.
Most TV news hosts actually can tell you maybe what they read afterwards.
I don't know about that.
Oh, come on. Some will. I mean, I'm not saying they're not.
Did you watch season 2 of the morning show?
Yeah, I watched the morning show, and I have to say the season 1, really good, I thought. Season 2,
it was good.
It was horrible.
It was horrible. Yeah.
It was like they ran out of the ideas.
They what I think happened is once again, this is an example of somebody taking an existing book, packaging it up, and spreading the story of the book over the course of one season.
Yes, and then getting
because that's how you sell it. That's how you sell the show when you're trying to make it, right? It's like, here's the story, and here's what blah 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 blah, and then it's successful, and then there's like, well, we're going to pick it up for 2 more seasons, huh?
Now what do we do?
Yeah, no, that sounds great. Yeah, no, we got great script writers. We'll crank out some scripts. So it's total shit. This happens all the time in every genre. Game of Thrones is a perfect example. When they ran out of book material, which was season 6, I think maybe. I think, yes, season 6, 7, and 8 were post book, and they were god awful, and they progressively kept getting worse and worse the further they got from where the books actually ended.
It's like they're all alone in the wasteland now. They don't know.
Here's what they don't have is they don't have any grasp of what the story and the characters should be, because when they're working off of an existing book, there's some guidance there. Even if they want to take little detours, there's always essential plot that brings them back. There are descriptions of what the characters are like. Even though in Hollywood these days, like, okay, but which one's going to be black and which one's going to be gay?
Right. We have to add that in.
Because if it's not in the book, we got to fix the book.
Okay. Season 2 of the morning show, going back to, we have to have somebody be gay. Was that a surprise to you when, should we say spoilers? Because this is an old show.
Spoilers, whatever. Yeah. Nobody's watching anyway.
Nobody's listening. Reese Witherspoon's character, all of a sudden out of nowhere, is gay or bi.
After the character that was introduced as the conservative voice that was dealing with the liberal bullshit just happens to be gay.
Just flip that switch.
Well, why not?
I thought it was hilarious, but what it really seemed to me was that they had their climax that they wanted for season 1, and season 1 worked really well.
Yeah.
And then they didn't know where to take those characters because they have shit writing.
They have no clue.
And the first 5 minutes of season 2 was some of the worst television that I've ever seen in my life. Because they show a scene of the one guy getting fired, and then they go, I think, to the credits, and then they start with a montage of empty New York streets. And then go 3 months earlier, and it's like, what? It was very strange because then they drop you into a whole different time, and you have no idea what just happened. And I'm like, what's going on here? And I ended up looking it up afterwards on Reddit just to see what people were saying about that episode. And there were a slew of people that were like, yeah, 10 or 15 minutes in, I had to pause this and then come to the internet to see if I was just really stupid or what. And that's not the way you want to start a season of a television show, is confusing your audience, not because you're trying to, but because you are so bad at your jobs that you can't properly tell the story. And it just seemed to completely run out of steam. They tried to add COVID into this. And then, I mean, the interesting thing to me, though, for over the 2 seasons, they kind of stayed pretty solid with the concept that the big bad white guy that was fired from his job for being a sexual predator, they did portray him as a fairly good guy, which is interesting. And it was just, it's so cringeworthy to me, the part of this whole thing. And there was a lot of cringeworthy moments. The one that I thought was worst was Mitch Kessler targeted black women. It's like, you mean he dated and screwed them?
Yeah.
How is that? Targeting sounds like it's a serial fucking killer. You know, and it's like this. Oh my God, this made it even worse because he was doing it with black women.
And how is he targeting them? It's like he wasn't exclusively fucking black chicks.
Right. It's like, this is just like you're trying so very hard to fit some kind of racist narrative into the writing. And you can't even figure out how to fucking do it because you don't even know what it is.
Yep. That is true.
And it was maddening because it's like, I don't really understand. And to be fair, sometimes entertainment is just entertainment. But it's like, what are you trying to...
It's just poor quality entertainment.
Yes.
That's all.
Because what are you trying to say? What impression are you trying to give of this guy? And it wasn't even like, well, we're intentionally just trying to show you that this is a very complex situation. Because they were very much so like, oh no, this is horrible. All of this woke stuff is just so horrible. And it was just funny the way they portrayed a lot of it, including the younger staffer, in her 20s, going after the older weather guy and basically fucking him until they get caught and have to go to HR, and then she can't handle it anymore. It's like, but it was you that did it. So there was a lot of it that just didn't make sense. Like the writers didn't know how real people reacted real situations.
Yeah, I think that's a large part of it, is that unlike book writers who have a lot of time to come up with believable characters
and rewrite if they have to.
Yeah, exactly. I think that the script writers have a lot more of a time pressure.
Well, I wonder how many writers are on this show. I should have looked that up because I'm wondering how many people were in that writing room.
Yeah, I would be surprised if it was less than 4.
Oh, I would be surprised if it was less than 10 or 20, I'm thinking.
Oh, I don't know. Come on. I think it's between 4 and 10.
Let's see. The morning show. Could they, although this is also a very hard name to look up things for.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a lot of morning shows. Let's see. Writing credits. IMDb has everything. 25 people in writing credits for
Oh my God, you're right. Holy shit. That's insane. 25 people who don't know what the fuck they're doing. That's amazing.
And there's a lot of them that are just, 2 episodes, but a majority, let's see how many people on all 20 episodes. There's at least, just a handful. And then there's a lot that are 10 episodes, which probably for different seasons, but a lot of different hands going into this, which is, the question. It's like, I've written some, short fiction stuff. I understand the process of it. And there's 2 different ways to go about writing. And there's either the people that like to have a flow chart. They want to go in and be like, okay, well, here's the character and this is what's going to happen. Here's the end. And this is a couple of the waypoints along the way. And then they write to meet those, to get to those points. And then there are people like the crazy liberal Stephen King, who is a pantser, who comes up with the character and they kind of do a character study, but then they just start writing and see where
What's
it goes.
A pantser?
Writing by the seat of their pants. It is a term in the writer's world, believe it or not. Pantser, which means you don't have a roadmap going in. You're writing by the seat of your pants. And so you just start writing.
Well, regardless of how stupid Stephen King's politics are, he is one of the most prolific, one of the most professional writers in the world.
Yeah, and that's how he starts. He gets his character. He's like, I put the character into the situation I want the character in. Have no idea where it's going to end up.
Yeah. But he sits down every morning and then writes. And I have to travel to Mexico just to do a little bit of that.
Isn't that scary?
Mm-hmm.
But, after you do it enough, it becomes like second nature and you just kind of... I think a big part of...
Yeah, I don't think it does, dude. I think you have to have a personality that makes it second nature, but I don't think it does just from doing it.
Well, I think there's a certain amount, because even with podcasting, the more you do it, the easier it becomes.
Yeah, podcasting, not freaking writing.
Well, see, this is it. Is writing that different? It depends on the mindset. And it depends how much gets thrown away, because there are a lot of writers who, when they get the writer's block, just stop and can't write anything. And then there's the ones, I think, that maybe it is a personality thing. Maybe it is just having the experience that they're able to write stuff, even if they know they're not going to use it, because just the writing, maybe you'll get back into the flow and a lot of stuff gets thrown out. I think most people realize that most books are edited down, and it's not like this is the exact thing that came out of the writer's fingers while originally writing it, whether it's fiction or nonfiction. So there's a kind of a skill there to be able to kind of power through and keep writing, even though maybe you don't have your best ideas. And I've watched a few of the master classes, one from James Patterson and one from Margaret Atwood, both different concepts of writing, but both really interesting if you have access to the master class stuff.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you didn't pay for that either.
Well, you never know. the internet's an interesting thing.
I'm pretty sure. So yeah, I've written.
You've written?
Routed.
I routed crayon and I done wrote it down.
I wrote it down. Exactly. A shit ton of nonfiction and a little bit of fiction. But I've easily written several thousand pages over the course of the last 20 years. But it's hard work for me. I do not enjoy writing at all. I do it because I have to. I don't do it because it's fun. And given an opportunity to do pretty much anything else, play video games, go sit in the pool with a drink, whatever, I'll take that over writing. Now for fiction, I've had a little more fun, but I've also never published my fiction. Well, I've never finished anything. I've started a bunch of stories, but
then you gotta finish.
then I run into problems with tying up the loose ends. Yes. I'm like, okay, we'll just move on to a different story then.
Right. Otherwise, when it turns into work is where it becomes a problem.
Well, it's always work. I really think it is always work. And some people, like I know a guy who's written 9 fiction books. He's a pretty good writer. A friend of my one of my friend's dad, and he has his standard routine. Like he writes in the evenings, and generally after he's had a drink or two.
Loosen up the thoughts.
Yeah, exactly. He never writes on an empty stomach. He only writes with a few drinks and continues drinking while he's writing. And I guess that allows him to put more stuff down. It still takes him somewhere between 6 months and 9 months a book to write a book. And these are typically, he's got a few different series, but they're kind of what I would describe as the Hardy Boys, or kind of a Jeeves and Wooster type books.
So it's like a formulaic mystery.
They're like adventure mystery kind of things. There's usually either a detective or somebody solving something, or it's something of that regard. But he's got to develop the whole plot line. He's got to map everything out. He's got to get the character traits down. He's got to make sure that everybody's paired up nicely. Kind of like if you look at a perfect example of that is what Agatha Christie always did.
You have to create the world.
It's not just the mystery. It's having the right counterbalances of everything.
Well, then let me ask you this. Like, what was your favorite television show of all time that you've seen every season and you've seen it multiple times? Do you have a favorite television show?
There's been many over the course of my lifetime. I think Battlestar Galactica is definitely one. The Expanse was one. But here's the problem. It's always season 1 and 2 are great, and then 3 is okay, and 4 and 5 suck.
Well, yeah, it happens.
It doesn't matter what the show is. That's just reality.
But if you were to take, let's say that first 2 seasons of Battlestar Galactica that you love,
it's very good.
And I'm like, okay, write a story that happens right after the second season ends. Now, is that harder?
It's easy. No, that's easy.
Because you have the characters, and that's for anybody, you wonder why these writers go with.
I don't think they read the previous stories. I think they come in as writers into these writing rooms like, okay, we're going to create a story about character X. And they're like, great, here's what X is going to do. Well, do you not want to read on what they've done in the past? No, that's all right.
Unimportant. But this is why authors that go with, you wonder why these series have the same guy or gal as the hero through the whole book, because they know the character. And the characters, because it's very easy to go, I watched MASH from an early age. It's like if somebody were like, hey, go write a story revolving around the characters that were in MASH.
Yeah, it's an easy thing to do. Now, one thing that both Battlestar Galactica and Game of Thrones did, which I love when they do this, is kill off main characters.
Oh, yeah, because nobody's expecting that.
Because in America, you're not used to that happening. So the idea of having a character, and The Expanse did this too, by the way. Expanse was another one of those that a great show for many reasons, good books, and the characters. And The Expanse, incidentally, was written by 2 guys that were kind of fans of George R.R. Martin. Except they were doing science fiction and he was doing fantasy. Although George R.R. Martin really likes science fiction more, apparently. He's talked about that, how he's known for his fantasy, but he really is a sci-fi nerd. Shocker, right? Looking at him, you'd never know he's a sci-fi nerd.
Hey, whatever you're good at, though. I mean, that's it.
I hear he's a pretty good podcaster, too.
And podcasting's easy.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody can do it, although it's hard to get an audience.
Yeah. Speaking of audience, so I guess we're wrapping the show up. I saw that nobody listens anymore. Nobody wants to hear any more episodes. I'm the least popular person you do a show with. Right. So we're done, right?
You mean not wrapping today's show up? You just mean overall wrapping.
Oh, yeah. I mean, today's the last show. Yeah.
I thought it was an interesting poll, and I thought that Jennifer would be far and above any of the other people that get votes just because the voting was happening on No Agenda
I didn't even know you did a show with her.
she filled in for Larry on what would have been our third missed week, because we had the first missed week where I had the tooth infection. Mm-hmm. We had the second missed week because he was traveling, and then he ended up traveling for the third week. And the next show was going to be our 1 year. So I'm like, well, no, I don't want to skip a whole month and then do the 1 year of Planet Rage. So I asked Jennifer if she wanted to fill in, because like she does the opening for that show where she's like, oh, here's Larry and Darren. And then she was on the show once before with Fletcher when we did it live. And I figured it would be fun to have a completely different vibe for a show.
Yeah, totally.
And people like Jennifer. So I'm figuring this isn't even going to be close. People are all, even if they hadn't heard the show, would be like, oh yeah, Jennifer's the best. And then, who knows for you, Larry, and Bemrose. But it turns out, I think Bemrose had a bot and won overall. And the interesting thing was there was at least one or two comments of people that are like, yeah, I like Bemrose because I like your adversarial vibe.
Yeah. I've heard that as well, yeah.
Which it's like, oh, so I guess it's better if you don't like the person you're podcasting with.
That's true. And we are kind of moving in that direction. So, maybe things will improve over time.
Fuck you, Gene. I am tired of listening to your stuff. I just can't handle it anymore.
I just don't have no idea why people even listen to you at all, frankly. Because there's nothing really you bring to the table.
I have that good voice. I mean, really, but it's an empty words that are coming out.
I mean, it's a good voice, and I think it's good for announcing what tune is going to play next, and you kind of do that with your most popular show.
It's the most fun show. You get to rock, you get to roll. But then we do all the podcasts, and we go to all sorts of different lengths to bring in all sorts of different topics. And every show's different, which I like. Which, I think it all works out.
Speaking of shows, so I'm going to plug the new show on this show. So finally, after God knows how many episodes of just being a guest on Sir Gene Speaks.
Oh, are you finally getting a spinoff?
Yeah, we're getting a spinoff. So
that's usually a death knell for a show. We finally got it's like it's the Ropers.
yeah, exactly. Got a spinoff.
Sir
the
Gene
Ropers was
Sir
a
Ben.
Horrible idea. Yeah, that was a god awful idea.
Well, no, you want to know what's a god awful idea? I just read
the Jeffersons.
No, the Jeffersons was a good show.
It was a good show.
The movie company, whichever it is, Paramount, that owns Ferris Bueller's Day Off, is now making a movie.
No,
which is about the two fucking valets that took the car.
Oh no,
their story is going to be told like 30, 40 years later. It's like,
oh,
why?
That's horrible. Yeah, yes. That's a story that clearly was pitched in a drug-induced or not pitched, bought in a drug-induced stupor.
I think there's no question that shows you've run out of ideas.
Oh my God. They literally cannot make anything original anymore, can they?
No. Well, I don't even know how they go back to any of that, because the old stuff isn't woke. And, that's the interesting thing, even just going back, watching stuff from...
The new stuff is, for sure.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was not a good series to begin with, but I've been watching episodes of The Odd Couple, which was remade with Matthew Perry and the other dude. But
he was clearly the gay one.
Right. Now, that was still fairly non-PC, and that was just a few years ago. I don't know what flipped the switch to go all in on this stuff, but it certainly happened.
Well, I can tell you what, it's giving up your children to insane people to indoctrinate them for 12 years.
And then they watch something on TV and they're like, oh my God, I can't handle this. Find me a safe space.
Yes. Either find me a safe space or change my sex.
Yes. There is no safe space from changing your sex.
So I don't know, man.
A dude named Ben and Sir Gene.
Yeah. You interrupted me mid-thought. So we're gonna start a new show. I've got in fact, I'll go ahead and announce it on the air because we kind of teased it on our show.
You are so old. This is the air. This is the Bitstream.
Well, now make sure you cut this part out of the actual episode that's published, because I want this only for people listening on the stream.
Oh, yeah.
You ready? Mark your time.
I'm going to edit.
Okay. Yeah, good. So for the first time. So it's called Just Two Good Old Boys.
So it's a Dukes of Hazzard remake?
I don't even know what that is. I just happened to come up with those words totally on my own, and the music has nothing to do with the show. I mean,
never doing no harm. That's the
always been a big fan. Yeah, exactly. Never doing no harm. But I got the URL, which is good. So we got that set. We've got some theme music already done.
Yeah, just some good old boys.
Yeah, it's amazing.
No harm.
No, that's shit. Your rendition's pretty good there, actually.
Thank you.
Might have you do it as well, and then we can intersperse it.
That'd be good.
Yeah, man, I'm totally up for it. But the idea is we clearly have developed a certain focus and a certain type of person that likes that show, and then I can get Sir Gene Speaks back to be just my personal Gene ranting about things, kind of like your random thoughts.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
It's good to have a solo show.
Well, I think so. So that'll get me to 3 shows. I'm still a couple behind you. That's the point.
Working at it.
I was thinking, I really like 80s music. Maybe I should just start 80s music DJ show.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, right?
Or we could do a whole look back at the 80s and do like rewatches of movies.
Do 81,
album
82,
reviews,
and 83.
Yeah, I mean, if you really want to get granular,
well, that's usually how they do these things. If you watch it on TV, it's always like they're going to stretch it out into 10 episodes.
No, I just meant you could probably do like one whole season on 1980 and then another whole season on 1981.
Oh, yeah.
The best of.
Best of, exactly. The price of cocaine during 1981 surged all the way up to $89 per
Is that how you kind of look back, and is that how your inflation meter is?
It's the price of Coke. Yeah, the price of Coke. Well, Coke got cheaper in the mid 80s. So that would be deflationary, I guess.
Well, that was good. Reagan was doing his job.
He was doing his job. Yeah.
Brought the price of Coke down.
Reagan had the good sense to say he was senile, unlike the current president.
I mean, and it's not a surprise to anybody. And Reagan had an excuse. Reagan's one of the few people that you saw mentally failing after he was shot, but somehow made a comeback, which was amazing. I mean, I'm not saying he got back to 100%, but it's very rare that pendulum even goes back a little bit in the other direction. And with Reagan, it did.
It did. Well, and I've experienced this with my dad, where he was 5-6 years ago. So he was in his late 70s. He's in his 80s now. He's in his late 70s. He was driving his old Ford Sport Ute out to the dealer in Seattle to buy a new car. And on the way to the dealer, there was a car that was making a left turn in front of him. So he stopped. He's behind the other car waiting for him to turn. And he got rear-ended by a guy who didn't stop and rammed into him with full speed in a Ram van. Yeah. Completely totaled my dad's car. And they had to helicopter him to a hospital in Seattle. He was totally out of it. He was passed out. This is like he had an old Ford that he never. I mean, none of us really do this, so I can't really blame him. But the airbag did not deploy because it was a car that was like 10 years old, and he'd never had the airbag checked.
Well, and you were hit from behind. Would that bring the air? I guess it would.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, because you get hit from behind, that pushed you into the seat, but the car is hitting the car in front of it and slowing down immediately. And so he had these nasty gashes on his face from hitting the steering wheel. The seatbelt worked, but seatbelt is only going to save your life, not your face.
Yes. Well,
the airbag is what saves your face.
Testing an airbag, it's like, well, then how do you know it works once you reset it?
Well, what they tell you is it has to get tested. I mean, it's not, they don't test it by blowing it up. They test I guess, to make sure that there's no leaks.
Right. Like the
actual charge is still good. I don't know, whatever. But they tell you you're supposed to do it like every 10 years. Nobody ever does this. So just assume if you're in a car that's over a decade old, that the airbag's not going to deploy.
Yeah, who needs
say
airbags?
That's a safe employment. Yeah, we never used to.
Yeah.
Dude, we didn't need fucking seatbelts. Like, we used to fly out of front windshields in the day and then walk away from the accident.
Hell yeah.
That's how we were back these pussies these days.
That 1978 Oldsmobile, my friend.
Yeah, it'd take you about 5 seconds to fly over the hood.
Yeah, you just look down and watch the hood. It's going to take a while. It's like flying over Midwest. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I was in 2 car accidents in that thing. Well, that's why I had 2 cars. It's because each one of them got totaled. And one of them I got rear-ended on, and the guy that was in the passenger seat wasn't wearing a seatbelt. I was wearing a seatbelt. And he ended up getting his back fucked up. Like he became paralyzed.
Nice.
Yeah, not my fault. And then the other time I could see somebody was going way too fast on an icy road as I was stopped for a left turn.
Ooh.
And there's no way he was going to be able to stop. So I quickly put the car into forward gear and I just started going forward just to lessen the impact. Still ended up getting hit and still ended up getting the car totaled. So I've had 2 Delta 88s totaled.
And that's hard to do, man. There's not a lot of crumple zone with those cars.
No, the good thing is, it didn't affect me at all.
Right. You're like, this was fun.
I wouldn't go that far, but because you do get the wind knocked out of you. It's kind of like, remember, this is like a 70s car. The thickness of the seats, like the padding on the seats, is not what it is in modern cars.
You're not in a full 5-point harness being gingerly held.
Exactly. And so you get that seat whacking you up in your back, and then your headrests are basically minimal and your head just whips back and hits the headrest. This is at a time when nobody wore helmets. Hell, they didn't wear, like, I'd rollerblade with just the blades, nothing on my elbows, nothing on my knees, no helmet.
Yeah. I mean, when we rode bikes and skateboards and stuff, there was no helmets and
nothing,
pads.
None of this bullshit that makes children weak.
And you wonder why
we believed we believed in Murphy's Law.
And the survival of the fittest.
Exactly. If you can't survive skateboarding, you probably ought to be dead.
Or at least not skateboarding.
Yeah, well, but if you're going to skateboard, then you deserve to be dead. That's okay.
If you're going to do something dumb, yeah. I mean, I remember kids, and I never really did it because I think I have the part of the brain that says you're going to die doing that. Was back in the day, what they call it, skeeching, where it was an icy road.
Yeah.
And somebody's driving, kids would run and grab onto the back bumper of a moving car and see how long they could hold on.
Mm-hmm. Well, that sounds horribly fun.
Yeah. Well, the person driving the car does not know you're doing it.
No.
Even more fun.
Oh, yeah. Well, ice has a certain fun aspect to it.
Until it ends.
Where you lose
a spot there that's not icy.
Yeah, I mean, I've done a full 360 on the highway in an icy condition before. That's always fun.
Yeah, you're like, just continued on.
Yeah, well, eventually, and then didn't hit anything. I managed to get off the road, but yeah, I've slid with wheels locked towards a car at 50 miles an hour.
That's a good feeling.
Could have sworn I was going to hit him. So basically, icy highway, but didn't seem to bother me at the time. And this car going in the left lane, I'm going in the right lane. And I feel like I ought to be able to pass him and get in front of him because, he's just blowing snow on me because he's slightly ahead of me and in the left lane.
You were using your white Russian privilege.
And so I'm using my 4-wheel drive privilege to accelerate. But as I'm accelerating, I see that there's another car in the right lane in front of me, but he's moving way slower than I am. So I'm like, it's not going to happen. I'm not going to be able to get in front of the other guy in time because I can't accelerate fast enough because of the ice on the road. I'm barely accelerating. So
you were really mad at your ability to do the math at that particular point.
I was doing the math with my eyeballs, moving left, right, trying to estimate the distances between each of the cars. Finally, the sense in me kicked in and I said, it's not going to happen. So then I have to slow down and not hit the guy in front of me, hit the brakes and nothing happens. And I have anti-lock brakes. This is not an old car. This is like a 2000s car.
Well, then doesn't it go zzz when they're trying?
No, that's the old cars used to do that. New ones don't do that. But in this case, it didn't do that because all four wheels just locked. See, the car only knows that it needs to apply anti-lock brakes if one of the wheels is turning at a different speed than the other three.
Oh, so if they're all the same, it's like,
if all four wheels come to a complete stop, that means the car is no longer moving.
This is perfectly fine.
Except I'm moving at 50 miles an hour. And I'm starting to slightly turn very slowly because the car is no longer using wheels. It's on basically pads, just skidding. And I'm getting closer to the front bumper of the guy in front of me. And I'm getting close, and it's slow because my relative speed to him is not huge. My relative speed probably was about 10 miles faster, and it's slowly dropping as the car is going on ice. The guy in my left lane is now getting to be, he's still next to me, but he's a little bit ahead of me. So if I could slow down enough, then I can jump into the left lane behind him and pass the guy without hitting him in front of me.
Ice. You're right.
But I also can't turn because my wheels are stopped. So I'm literally just skidding at like 50 miles an hour. And I'm pretty sure it was 50 because I think I got up to 60 before I realized I'm not going to make this. and then I'm edging up behind the guy to the point where his bumper is no longer visible in front of my hood. And I'm bracing for an impact. And it seems like that took like an hour is what it felt like of me sitting there with his bumper not visible, just waiting for that feeling of my car just hit his car and hoping to God he doesn't hit his brakes.
Right. Because that's going to add to the fun.
Because that will really fuck things up if he hits his brakes because he wants to brake check me because I'm too close. And I was way too close because I couldn't see his bumper. And it never happened. He didn't brake. My front bumper must have literally been an inch away from his because I couldn't see it under the hood.
You were doing some bump drafting.
But holy shit, that was the closest I'd ever come to having a full speed on highway crash.
That was your fault.
And that was totally my fault. And I slowly started seeing the car was slowing down and falling back. When I was down to about 30 miles an hour, I let go of the brake. And the wheels did a little wiggle left, right, and then started spinning again. And then I was able to change lanes and pass the fucker and give him the finger as I was passing him because clearly he deserved it.
All the time on the radio was Waylon Jennings singing, "Just some good old boys."
Exactly. This is the show's going to be nothing but car stories. That's all it is. Just car stories from the two of us.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, it's like Car Talk Radio. You ever listen to Car Talk?
Yeah,
I used to love Car Talk.
Yeah, when it was that's you want to know how to fix
the brothers. Yeah,
people would call in like my
other brother.
This noise.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Those fuckers were extremely accurate and correct in their diagnostics. It was amazing
for what they were given.
Yeah, because I'm kind of a car guy. I understand how to work on engines. I've done all that. I was forced into it as a child, slave labor at Henry Ford's plant. So, but
that was the Model T. Those were much easier to work on.
Yeah, I think they were easier to work on.
It was a much simpler thing. No computers.
Yeah, but we didn't have electric cars back then. I mean, that was a major threat to Ford at the time.
Yeah, well, that's because
they had about the same range,
Well, that is the sad part, isn't it?
Yeah.
The technology
and you didn't have gas stations, so it'd be harder to actually charge your vehicle because the electric you could plug in at the house, but the gas stations were few and far between.
Well, I did love that the story was out. I saw it elsewhere, but No Agenda covered it.
Mm-hmm.
That what happened to you that you were able to opt out of quickly happened to a bunch of people in California with their thermostats.
Boy, it sure did. And they didn't get to choose.
But this is where it's going. And I say, I've said this a few times, but Glenn Beck warned of this stuff like 10 or 20 years ago, and people said he was nuts. And it's all coming true. I mean, Glenn Beck
because he's
nuts,
a Mormon. That's why.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
He is nuts on a lot of different stuff, but he was right about that.
Yeah, and it's hard to really fault them for doing that. I mean, if they can
have
either
to save the planet.
Well, yeah. I mean, how would they not save the planet? See, in my case, I did figure it out eventually, and I think I can't remember if you were the one that came up with the hypothesis, but somebody did, and it wasn't me. But it was a correct one, which is what they did is they decided that there's simply for the people that opted in, like me. I did opt in voluntarily. Well, for $100.
Right. There's your bonus.
There's my bonus is $100. Is they decided that the best thing to do is to simply bump everybody by 4 degrees warmer than whatever their thermostat was set to.
Correct. Not knowing somebody might have already.
Not knowing somebody might have a thermostat set to 79. Because that's what my snakes enjoy.
Which also makes you wonder if they know what it's set at or they can just do plus or minus.
I think it's plus or minus. Yeah. I don't think they know what it's set at.
That was my guess on that one.
If it was set to 72 or 74, even like a lot of people, that would get to an uncomfortable 76, 77 degrees. But given that mine was set to 79 and it got to 84.
Well, and a lot of people turn these things up when they leave. So if you do that, then you're also screwed by trying to do the right thing again.
Yeah, it definitely is screwed. So consequently, that was not something that I enjoyed. And I think it would work better if they could read what your thermostat was set to.
Right. Which is why everything
and
has
then
to
just
be on the
add
internet.
one more rule, which is move it up by 3 or 4 degrees, but only up to a maximum of 78.
Right.
Which would have actually lowered my temperature by 1 degree.
Now, this is obviously massive government overreach, but people are signing up and asking for it because they don't think it'll ever be used against them. That's funny.
Yeah.
But
and I signed up because it was $100 and I figured, I keep it warm all the time. It's not going to affect me because
why would they mess with me?
Well, because again, my thought was that if they want to have people not be trying to cool the house to 72 because that's constant nonstop, never turning off air conditioning. That's fine. It won't affect me because I never go that low anyway.
Right.
And consequently, I'm just going to get a free $100 for nothing. No. But I think what ended up happening that I never even thought of at the time is they don't know what temperature I have mine set to. All they know is that they can bump it up.
Right. And they did.
They did.
I was wondering this while reading that story. What about portable air conditioning units? I think everybody's going to need to buy these.
Mm-hmm.
Because eventually the government's going to control everybody's thermostat, and you're going to have a portable air conditioner unit that you can put in a room to at least keep the house cool. Because as of yet, it's going to take a long time for the technology without them just being like, well, you can't have any electric, which then your fridge is going to shut down and everything else.
My defibrillator is going to get turned off. Great.
Right. Which I don't think they can do, but I'm thinking that.
They can do it. All right.
You might want to. This is not the program that you should take legal advice or financial advice from.
Good advice. No.
But companies that make portable air conditioners, I'm thinking might be in a good place right now if this kind of stuff continues.
I've thought about it. I already have purchased a couple of electric heaters.
And they work really well.
Well, and then people would say, well, idiot, why are you buying electric heaters when the thing you're trying to fight is the electricity going down in the middle of winter? Well, I also have a generator.
Correct.
So, yes, the portable heaters running off the generator will keep the house, in a probably 72 degrees is what it'll drop down to.
It'll keep you from having to go up the stairs every hour to keep your snakes warm.
That's exactly right. I mean, the method that I utilized, which is probably something most people would have never thought of doing, was about the only way that I could manage to control the temperature in one room of the house sufficiently enough to keep the snakes alive. So, which was boiling water on the stove and then bringing that hot water just below boiling and then sticking it into that room to transfer the heat from the water to the air in the room. And then once that starts cooling off, an hour later, going down and doing it all over again. So I was doing that literally once an hour for 3 days. No, 4 days. 4 days we didn't have power. So once an hour for 4 days was at 96, basically 100 water boilings and changes in the course of that event.
It had to be very surreal by the end of that.
Well, it means I had to sleep in 45-minute increments.
Yes, which also has to have a detrimental effect.
A surreal effect as well.
Yeah.
Well, you're in the dark all the time. There is no power to anything. Nothing works. And luckily the only thing that does work is the stove, but you have to manually light it because the electricity that would normally light it doesn't work.
Right. And there were people confused about how you light your stove.
Yeah, there are people definitely that don't understand what a match is.
But the interesting thing, I have no name in the troll room, which if you're not in the troll room, at trollroom.io, when we do these shows live on Fridays, you're missing out. Said black market for old school unpowered thermostats. See, I've thought of this because I'm like, I have a thermostat that is programmable, but it is not Wi-Fi. It is not internet enabled.
Yeah. And look,
I think they're going to force this. I mean, I think they're going to force the internet enabled at some point. So I think what the real trick is going to be is to have the wired one reporting back something and you have a secondary thermostat that's doing something else.
Yeah, you could do that.
And you have the wired
you could
one.
Certainly stick the old school one and replace it, but only if it's your house.
Right.
Because I don't know if you remember, so back when Adam used to live in downtown Austin, the
building, right?
The whole building used Nest thermostats, which was sold as a benefit, of course, to you because the thermostat knows when you're there and it'll, save you money by controlling the temperature by itself. But the Nest was also one of the first ones that sold also this program to the government saying, hey, you guys ought to subsidize people replacing their old school thermostats with a Nest. And they do subsidize it because you can control the Nest through a back channel. And of course, then we find out that not only can they control it, they can also know if you're in the house or not, which is convenient. So all that data is going to the government to know whether you're inside, outside, the camera access, all that stuff.
Well, yeah, the smart water meters are a big part of that.
Yeah.
Because most people don't think about that. I mean, with electricity, it's a little different because your air conditioners, your refrigerators, there's a lot of things that are running while you're not home.
Mm-hmm.
It's rare for water to run at a house unless you have an automatic sprinkler system outside or something. But it's really rare if there's nobody in the house for water to be on. And people don't think, I mean, you go flush your toilet, that's enough for that to light up. Oh, there's somebody here at this address.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, I mean, unless you've got your toilet set up to flush once an hour just for the hell of it.
That's not a bad idea. Throw them off, man.
Mm-hmm.
This is exactly why there are some things set up online which just throws out fake data. So,
my lights go on randomly. I have one of those devices here.
Oh, you have to. The people that have them set up at the exact same time.
Yeah, you're fucked.
Yes. And I like the outdoor lights that just turn on when it's dark and turn off when it's light and stay on all night. And because the LEDs now, even in Biden America with the prices of electricity going up, I mean, I figured that out when we got the outdoor lights along with just plugging in for light, because you could buy light bulbs. I don't even know if a lot of people know this. You can buy regular sized LED light bulbs that you can put in your outdoor fixtures that just have a sensor. So you never have to turn those on or off again. And it's like a penny per 24 hours to run those things.
Yeah. No, you can. I kind of prefer what my neighbors have, which is just insanely overly bright lights that just shine on their entire property that are motion triggered.
Oh, yeah, because they want to see the animals coming around.
No, well, maybe. I mean, I think they just want to make sure there's nobody stealing shit from them, but they're like really like they're bright enough to where you would seriously have second thoughts about trying to rob a house with those on.
Right, because you're going to be seen, you believe.
Yeah, whereas I just have the old standard, whatever came with the house, outdoor lights.
Yeah, but inside, you have a lead disbursement device that will...
Well, I also have a forced carbon dioxide atmosphere here, which is going to make most people just fall unconscious once they walk in the house.
I've heard that you are a big believer in that.
Yeah, carbon dioxide is awesome, man. It is the miracle element, and of course the powers that be know this and try and get rid of it.
But not carbon monoxide.
Well, carbon monoxide you shouldn't really be generating. I mean, that's not a. It's too active and a molecule, so you don't want that inside of you, because it's going to prevent the ability for you to exhale carbon dioxide.
Well, because you'll be dead if you have enough carbon monoxide.
Well, you'd be dead if you have enough carbon dioxide too.
Well, if there's no oxygen.
Yeah. No, you need the oxygen, but I also have an oxygen generator here, so I can control the indoor ratios pretty well.
Are you growing like plants there or something?
Maybe.
Is that the problem? Yeah.
I have a green thumb at times.
I see. I mean, tomatoes, stuff like that, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, actually potatoes.
Oh, well, that's good. Is that your Irish heritage coming out?
I have my Martian heritage is coming out. Yeah, potatoes are some of the best plants to grow in an environment that is hostile to most other life.
Well, hence Ireland.
Yeah, that's a very good point. That's very true. Yes.
And you could do the Penn Jillette diet and just eat nothing but potatoes for 30 days.
Oh, was that his diet? Potato diet?
Well, it was, he could choose any one thing. Because that was the whole thing on reprogramming your body, I guess.
I think I would probably do ice cream, and I guarantee you I would not lose weight.
Yeah.
Yeah. Potatoes
would be like a natural, whatever it was.
Well, I've done that diet. I did the only filet mignon diet.
Well, that's not bad. I mean, that's very good. That's for the ultra rich. I did think it was funny now.
Oh, and speaking of, not necessarily ultra rich.
Filet mignon diet.
Yeah.
That Sergine recommends so highly.
Yeah. So you know who's going to do that now is Tina.
Well, because there's some very good Texas beef from Texas Slim and the Beef Initiative, whatever it's called there in Austin.
Yeah, the Beef Initiative, whatever it's called. But yeah, so she's going to start doing the carnivore thing, which I think is great. I've always enjoyed it. The only issue I have with it, and I've done it 3 times now. The thing that always gets me to wrap it up is
a really bad case of the runs.
Not at all. You have no runs. Are you kidding? No. You runs. Are you kidding, dude? That only happens from vegetables.
Oh, I thought that was the water in Mexico.
It's the vegetables in the water in Mexico.
That makes sense. Stay away from vegetables, kids.
Yeah, vegetables are evil. Don't be around vegetables. No, it's the opposite. The beauty of eating nothing but meat is that meat has such a high absorbency that you only poop every other day.
Oh, well, see, that saves so much time.
Well, it saves water in the environment too.
I mean, you are thinking about the planet. I will give you that.
Mostly. I'm really a greenie.
I've never heard anybody say that. Yeah.
You never heard anybody refer to themselves as a greenie?
I mean, not you, but.
Oh. No, dude, I like plants. I have potatoes growing in my house.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
All potatoes all the time.
All potatoes in a nice carbon dioxide rich environment.
I think whatever you picked for that diet, I think it had to be like a single ingredient thing. Like you could have corn. You could,
filet mignon's not a single ingredient?
That it would be. I mean, I'm guessing you could also do that with the meat.
Well, he did lose quite a bit of weight. He lost like 100 pounds, didn't he?
Yeah, and I think he's kept it off, which...
Somewhat.
I think the concept is you do the crazy thing and you get down and then you just try to manage.
Well, it does get easier. So I have lost a lot of weight many years ago and lost about 100 pounds, in fact. And it is much easier to eat. Like, I don't want to say you can eat anything, right? But you can eat quite a bit when you're at the low weight and not really gain any weight because your metabolism is running a lot faster. Because one of the things that happens when you end up adding fat to your body is it has a counterbalance effect with your metabolism. So the more stored fat you have, the slower your metabolism gets. And that makes total sense because generally, if you look at the history of, humans, or really mammals in general, but for sure humans, that when you're starting to build up a lot of fat deposits, that would historically only be at one point in the year when a lot of things are harvested. Yes, so generally right before winter, before the long winter, exactly. And so during winter, you don't have to do as much work because you don't want to be burning as many calories. And you're living partially off your fat in your body and partially off whatever foodstuffs you've managed to, put in storage. And this is as true for, squirrels and chipmunks that are bearing nuts for the winter as it is for humans. Up until very, very recently, probably last few thousand, maybe even less than last couple thousand years. So it's kind of a natural thing that your body knows that, you just gained a bunch of weight. That means that winter's coming. That means that we're going to go into slow mode.
And you don't want to be in slow mode.
Yeah. And the problem is when you're in slow mode and you keep eating the same amount of calories that you've always eaten, those calories are more, in fact, of those calories are converted into fat. And so you're just adding more fat, and your body keeps waiting for that slowdown of the winter. And instead, you're just like accumulating ongoing fat in your body. And that's not good.
So you want to get it all rocking and rolling, and then you can coast.
Yeah. Now, there are a few drugs that are out there that will artificially move your body out of winter mode.
Well, that's like what the drug companies have been looking for. They want the magic pill that's like, you pop this, you'll never be overweight.
Yeah. Well, and there are some, they're not really pills. They're more injections because they're either hormones or precursors. So they're not really FDA approved. This is where it's not a medical advice show.
Right. This is where you do not want to take things that seriously.
Don't do this, boys and girls.
This is only for your educational well-being.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But one of the things that worked tremendously well was ephedrine. And ephedrine has now been brought into a controlled substance.
Because you can use it to cook meth.
But before that, you could get ephedra-alkali tablets over the counter. And then typically they had mawwong in them, as that was derived from. And ephedrine stimulates the production of a few different hormones in your body that kind of kick it into high gear. I think predominantly through the pituitary gland. So that was one of the things that work. Right now, there's a number of peptides. There's, I think, 3 different ones that are available in Mexico.
Is that why you went to Mexico?
No, I was on vacation in Mexico. What are you talking about?
You were a totally legitimate businessman. How many extra suitcases have come back? Did you send yourself a few packages?
I don't believe in suitcases. I don't know what you're talking about.
Did you ask somebody to carry something over the border for you?
I don't know anything about any mules that you're describing.
You're like, anybody. Come on. You going over the border?
Literally anybody can cross the border right now.
Even you?
Even me. Yes.
Unless you're trying to go the other way. And then they're like,
well, you got to be careful about that. But yeah, that's all that they're doing now. Now, this is not over the counter stuff. This is not even like stuff you can get from your doctor. But there are doctors out there that you can get prescriptions, sort of, kind of, for this stuff. So it's funny too, because what it actually says on the bottle is that not for human consumption.
Oh, nice.
And in fact, it's not for animal consumption either.
So whose consumption is it for?
It's for animal testing.
Oh,
yes.
Well,
animal testing for before you get to human studies, you do animal studies, right? So that's what this is currently manufactured for.
Okay, now I will
totally
say,
works though.
If comic strip bloggers listening, I want a doodle of you like popping pills that say not for human consumption only.
Mm-hmm. Not for human consumption only, exactly. So it's there's a lot more availability in Mexico than the U.S. They're a lot more forward thinking.
Well, they're a lot less bureaucratic.
Yes, they are. Yes, they know money talks.
And they'll let people try stuff. I mean, hey, some of the stuff may kill you, but then again, so will the stuff the FDA approves. So hey.
Yeah, so would stuff back when we were kids.
Yeah, like driving in a 1978 Oldsmobile at 100 miles an hour.
It may not kill you, but it'll kill the car for sure.
Amen to that.
Yeah, I remember jumping the curb in one of those things accidentally. Like I was at a parking in front of a store and I thought I was in reverse and I was going to back out of the parking space, but I was in drive. And instead of going back, it went forward. But the car, even though it weighed like 10,000 pounds, was perfectly fine just jumping the curve.
Yeah, nimble, baby.
Very, yeah, well, because it had about a foot of suspension travel.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Yeah, the bumpers weren't exactly hugging the ground.
Nowhere. They were not hugging. Although the bumpers themselves were really shit.
Oh, yeah, they'd fall off.
Yeah, they would totally fall off. Oh, my God. I remember having that issue back then. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like we started talking this whole topic. 80s cars, American cars in particular, were the absolute shittiest time in manufacturing. So
hey, if you have an 80s car you loved, let us know.
Yeah, if you currently have an 80s car, I'm sure you could sell it for some buku bucks. As one of these millennials or Zoomers are going to think it's the coolest thing ever.
My parents had a Dodge Intrepid that was probably around a 2000 or so, I think, maybe. Mm-hmm. That he had like maybe 90,000 miles on it.
Mm-hmm.
Just sold over the like maybe 3-4 months ago for $3,500, which it's like,
oh my God,
this is the world we're living in.
I remember that car. I remember renting in the rental place.
They were solid. I mean, there were some, I guess, that were really bad, but yeah, this year was solid. Didn't have problems with it.
I think I rented a that would have been a 95, maybe 95 version.
Some hold up better than others.
Yeah. Hey, so what else is going on? Like, I feel like I've been a little disconnected, somewhat on purpose. Anything I need to get caught up on?
I'm having a root canal next week. Yes.
I meant in the world, not with you personally, but no. Congratulations, I guess.
No, I think that's about it. I mean, we do have a couple of people to thank too. I mean, literally.
Okay. All right.
Chuda Kookie with $10, Kevin Seifert with $5, and we got a boostergram from Booper of Noses saying, "How dare you hate on G bodies?" LOL.
G body?
I don't know. So they'll have to.
Oh, is that the body of the GM? Oh, was the Delta 88 a G body? Is that what he's referring to?
Possibly, yes. That would make sense because we were talking about
body by Fisher.
It's body by Gene. Barbecued ribs.
That car's body was actually made by Fisher.
And beer. And old cigars.
Yeah, but I don't drink, so.
But we appreciate everybody for listening. This is a value for value show, even though, you know.
There's no value derived. So we're all good.
Unrelenting Show. I mean, hey, if you like the show, let us know.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, I've said this on, I think, all my shows in the past. The best thing you can do costs zero money, and that is to leave a review for the show on iTunes or Google or whatever the thing you use is. Leave a review, because shows that have reviews, and I don't mean a shitty 1-star either, But it doesn't even have to be a 5-star. But
algos, man.
Yeah, the algos will actually recommend shit with reviews over shit without reviews, even if the shit without reviews may be better. So leave us a review. That's the number one thing. Those are always appreciated. And then the second thing that costs you nothing as well is hit somebody in the mouth. Say, hey, there's a show with two guys talking about like nothing interesting.
Yes.
And
you got to hear the show.
The topics are always different, but they're never particularly good. The show about nothing. So it's just like Seinfeld. Yeah. You should check it out.
And a lot of people like Seinfeld.
I hear that.
Or at least a lot of people watched.
I never really watched it. It seemed like a stupid idea to me, but show about nothing. Well, what's going to be fun there?
It was interesting. I mean, the characters, again, I could write a Seinfeld episode fairly easily, I think.
Oh, sure. That's exactly what the last group of writers said.
That was how the series ended.
Uh-huh.
It was the worst. Again, and they had to do it on purpose. That was the worst final episode ever.
Yeah, they always are.
That's why you avoid it. A lot of these series that I've rewatched, I do just pass on the last episode or two.
Well, I do like that Steinbrenner and the Peterman catalog guy were on the show.
Yeah, well, there were some good bits.
Mm-hmm.
I think on Seinfeld. And it was never Jerry. I mean, it was always a supporting
Jerry
character.
was the straight guy. Jerry was the straight guy in the show.
Which made it work. But otherwise, what's going on in the world? But I think he was
the straight guy in real life, too.
Well, that's true. And they had the whole episode of, well, if you're gay, well, it's not that it's wrong.
Not that there's anything wrong with it.
Right. Not
the phrase.
That
there's anything wrong with it.
The fact that I'm just slightly misquoting a line and you're correcting me lets me know.
I've never seen this show. I don't know what you're talking about.
You've watched a little more.
That's right.
I
am a Larry David fan. You know that.
Yes. The thing in the world we talked about a little bit, the Trump Mar-a-Lago thing, the coverage on Mother Jones, which is just a total bullshit liberal.
That's still around. Holy shit.
I know.
I remember Mother Jones from the 70s and 80s.
The headline on this just shows you how the left is covering the Trump Mar-a-Lago thing.
Yeah.
The headline is Trump stole secret government documents. That's big question is why?
Yeah, why did he steal all those documents?
That they know that he stole documents that were, it's like, what do you mean stole documents? Mm-hmm. He was the president. What you saying? President can't steal documents? Right. Well, I'm saying that if he did, then Barack Obama has stolen documents. Bill Clinton has stolen documents. Any of these presidents have done
and
the
Biden
exact
even
same
stole
thing.
a whole election. But hey, let's not talk about that.
Exactly. Let's avoid that and just be like, we know that he did this. It's like, no, we don't. That's what they're actually investigating right now. So as a news organization, you fucks.
Now, did not the Clintons steal the silverware from the White House?
Yes, they had trucks of stuff that they had to give back because they just absconded with
Yeah, they just took everything.
Yeah. But don't look there. Don't look at that. No,
they were. But they were also they were ahead of their time. They turned the White House into Airbnb.
I was going to say that a brothel was
no. Well, no, but it was cigars. They were renting out. They were renting out the Lincoln bedroom.
Yeah,
way ahead of their time.
Well, I mean, you said it was pretty nice when you stayed there.
It's not. It's the ceilings are tall, but I don't like that style.
Well, they probably have remodeled since Lincoln.
Well, it had a bed that looked like it wasn't remodeled since that time.
Oh, that can only talk.
It was like a 4-post bed.
I mean, it looked nice.
Not my style.
Hey, we'll be looking for some photos of your style. What's the inside of Gene's dojo looks like? Take a YouTube video. People want to know. Cribs with Sir Gene. Yeah.
I don't live in a dojo.
Are we using some too hip language for you? Are we slapping it down and you ain't picking it up? Come on, man. Thought we were going back to the 80s. Aren't you a rad dude?
That would not be called a dojo, dude. The dojo is your garage.
I didn't know that. You only consider a dojo a garage.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
What do you call it? Your hot pad? What you got? Your crib?
Crib would be the people of a certain persuasion name for it.
People of a certain persuasion.
Yeah. Yeah, like urban persuasion.
Are you self-censoring here on Unrelenting?
The urban persuasion of folk.
It's unrelenting.
It is unrelenting.
It's definitely unrelenting. So speaking of unrelenting, we shut down our whatchamacallit, our
it's
locals.
still there, right?
Well, I'm going to dismantle it, so it's not going to be there for any greater length of time.
That I should unlink.
Yes, please do. So I'm going to run a little experiment with that, locals. So instead of creating a new one, I'm just going to recycle that one.
Oh, nice, for the Good Old Boys hour.
Exactly.
Well, let us know how that goes.
Yeah.
But we will be back
I'm sure.
next week,
not only can I let you know how that goes, you can even listen to the show.
Well, I'll be a member because I'm already a member of that community. That community.
That's true. That's a good point.
There you go.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that show's got some good legs. We're going to have in fact, I'm going to pre-announce the guest on your show. See, I'm going to probably get some hate mail from my co-host because I'm spilling all the beans on your show instead of our show.
Named Ben?
That host, exactly.
Of the Good Old Boys hour?
Of the Good Old Boys hour. The
Confederate flag in the back.
We're not going to do video. But
that doesn't mean the Confederate flag's still not going to be in the back.
Sure enough.
You're doing it from the seat of the Dodge Charger with the full General League regalia.
Exactly. Yep. With the horn that plays
Dixie, right?
Dixie.
There you go.
That's the one.
I dig it. But who's the guest? There's a guest coming?
So we're going to have, he was just on Tim Pool a couple of weeks ago. We're going to have him on.
Are you going to be on Tim Pool soon?
I have no comment on that.
Okay.
But we will have Tucker Max on our first official episode.
Well, no, you've done episodes already. They were just kind of like pre-episodes.
Our first official episode with the new name.
You were just kind of working on up to it.
Well, we've been doing Sir Gene. I mean, it's kind of like this show, right?
But good.
No. What I meant to say is, I wouldn't go that far. But what I meant to say is, I did how many episodes of Grumpy Old Ben's before we decided that it's probably time to...
You're like 9 or 10. Yeah, I get you.
Yeah, exactly. And then, because if you're going to have a 1-year anniversary with Larry, that means you already missed a 1-year anniversary for doing our show.
Though, depending on how the naming went, yeah.
Yeah.
We're only on episode 40 here, so I think it was the naming thing. So we're still coming up, man.
Well, I mean, if you want to say so, but I know we started doing that show before you started doing one with Larry.
Yes, it's all about
chronologically.
Yes. We'll figure it all out.
But also, you now have skipped 2 episodes that I gave you an opportunity to have somebody else fill in for me.
Can anybody really fill in for you?
Yes. A lot of. I even sent you a list of people that could. I even sent you a list that included Bemrose on it. Although
it ruins the whole vibe.
Bemrose was bitching about having to get up at
too early,
to do a 9 a.m. show on Friday. Oh yeah, that's tough. I mean, I get it. That's a rough life when you got to get up for a 9 a.m. show.
Hey, all I have to say is, show up or not, we'll be back. Anything more need to be said?
No, that was a good way to end it. So I'm not sure why you were waiting for me.